Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Spiker Christensen. Choke me with that dead cat! Strangle me with its tail! We've got Jordan Christensen on the podcast.
My girlfriend's name is Tatiana. She's a lawyer. That was an actual line in this movie. That's my wife, by the way, in case you don't know. Her name is Tatiana, and she's a lawyer.
And the only thing that Jordan likes about her is her feet, you know?
Oh, that's right. I was like, what?
And we've got
Dude, Chris Pratt needs to make more cameos in movies. I'm sorry, I just have to say
No, he
that.
just needs to be in this movie more. And we got Cameron Mickle on the podcast.
I think anybody who falls in love is a freak. It's a crazy thing to do. It's like a form of socially acceptable insanity.
And we have first time on a podcast ever. Colton, don't know his last name. Hey, Colton.
Don't know his last name is my last name. I just wanted you to know that there will always be a piece of you in me, or that there will be a piece of you in me always.
Colton, I really like that. I really like that quote.
When he said that quote, I was actually thinking that there's like fragments of himself left in the movies he leaves behind, because like he gives so much of himself. It's like,
yeah, Colton, I really like that quote. You're like part man and part woman.
Thank you. I
should take it as a compliment.
That's right. He's quoting the movie.
Jordan, what is wrong with you? Did you even watch the movie? Jordan's phoning it in, everybody.
Yeah,
I did. I actually did a double feature. I'm thinking more fresh of Lost in Translation. Cameron said they're like basically the same movie.
Yeah.
When I chose that quote, I was thinking like, man, what would be like an impressive one to share that shows like that for all of the the single women that watch your podcast.
And so Ty chose the cat choking one.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to say that me and Ty, we're
well, it was between that
spectrum there.
It was between that and you said I hate women. All they do is cry all the time.
Stop being such a.
That was my other quote. So yeah, I went with the one out of context doesn't seem that harmful, and then you're like in context, you're like, what in the world is going on? What is this movie? What are you making me watch, Cameron? What is this?
Is this your first time?
Put my vote in? Can I just vote this movie as the least watchable with mom and dad? Can I vote it?
that I might agree.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever want to watch this movie sit next to mom or dad. I think
mom would be not too bad. Dad, I would maybe claw my eyes out.
Mom would not be that. I don't know. I feel just as weird. Especially even grandma. I wouldn't watch this with any other family. I'll watch it privately, and then I'll pretend I'll come to you guys like I watched it. So
just before I got on the podcast, I was FaceTiming with my little sister who's just about to turn 17. And she was like, "Oh, what movie are you talking about?" And I was like, "Oh, one of my favorite movies of all time, Her. It's so good. We got to watch it." And then I was like, "No, we don't."
Watch it on your own someday and come find me when you've seen it.
Yeah. I made the mistake of watching Superbad with her. What a horrible experience that was.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. No,
You got to do what I did is I eased my brothers into it. Like I started with like Equilibrium, and I would even on the back of the covers I'd write PG-13 because they were like very sensitive to ours. And you just got to watch movies that like Slumdog Millionaire, and like you could not tell the difference between a PG-13 and R. And then over time you tell them, "Oh, it was rated R." Just kidding.
Jordan's saying live a life of deception and lie to your loved ones.
What is it? Flax and quartz.
Driven them all away. Yeah.
Poison by degrees, Jordan.
Jordan's talking about like boiling the frog alive. You don't throw a frog into a boiling pot of water. You
slowly turn up the heat,
and you slowly turn up the heat, and you burn them to death.
I love the burning to death analogy for watching a movie.
yeah. This is where they get you. Man, this movie's sad. Guys, let's talk about the movie Her. Came out in 2013. Jordan, you give the synopsis. What's this plot? Who directed this movie? Who stars in it? Give us all that.
Cameron, you do that.
Okay.
Cameron, you do that.
So Her was directed and written by Spike Jonze. The plot synopsis is: in a near future, a lonely writer develops an unlikely relationship with the operating system designed to meet his every need. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Amy Adams, Scarlett Johansson, and a lot of the other, and I mean, Chris Pratt's cameos, but the rest of the other people are kind of background. I mean, also Rooney Mara, who plays his ex-wife. But let's just start it off with what was it like watching for the first time and rewatching for the pod, Jordan?
Cameron, this guy did Adaptation, the greatest dual playing Roll next to enemy.
Don't even.
I can't have honestly remember when I saw it the first time, but I know I enjoyed it. I think I probably rented it from Redbox back when I was using Redbox. Now everything is just streaming. I'm too lazy to even pop in a disc. But yeah, really loved it, and I loved it even more now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just kind of jump into it for the first time for me watching. Yeah, I was really blown away. I watched it by myself up at college in like 2020. It was like right during the pandemic too. So it was just really interesting, kind of like that isolation and like the feeling of the movie. I was just like, wow, and I was just blown away at like the cinematography and so many different things that I was just so impressed with it. I was like, I love this movie. But yeah, it's one that's hard to recommend to people. Like I watched it with Grant, and I was just like, there'll be a couple awkward scenes. I'm like, that I'll skip, but I'm like, but just know that. And then, I mean, I watched it again with me and Colton's buddy Drew, who's been on the pod a couple times, and it was definitely interesting. I mean, I love it. I love it every time I rewatch it. Like it just keeps going higher and higher on my top 100. Like now it's number 12 for me. But it was just funny because Drew hated it, and Drew was just like, it was like the most average thing ever, and like Joaquin had no character and no personality. I was like, what the fudge? I'm like, that's also kind of the point where he's a shell of himself after like losing the girl, but yeah, I just love it every time I like rewatch it.
And
Which
he's
I
in
was
love with
surprised.
his laptop, Cameron.
Yeah. I should have known that you couldn't handle a real woman with real emotions. And then Colton, what was it like watching for the first time and then rewatching it for the pod?
Yeah, so the first time I watched this movie, it was a while ago. It was the same day or the day after I had this really like I want not big, but this big emotional, I guess yeah, this emotional falling out with a girl. Um and it was like I can probably go back. Actually, I think I have it here in my camera roll. I probably paused it because I was crying like 40 times. And let me see. Um, I I took a whole bunch of pictures of it. Yeah, okay, right here. Um, Literally like in my camera roll, just pictures of and pictures of him being sad and depressed because it was the embodiment of the he just like me for real meme. It was such a tremendously like I connected with it a lot, which I didn't think I would, and I loved it. But because I had mentally tied it to that difficult experience for me, I didn't watch it for a long time. Like to me, it was almost like Requiem for a Dream. Like so hard to watch. I can't ever watch it again. And then I just recently watched it a second time, and with a little more space, I was like, holy crap, this is a perfect movie. And then I watched it a third time like 3 days later with Cameron and Drew, and I liked it that time as well. So and it keeps being solidified up for me. I think it's like number 4 or number 5 on my top 10 favorite movies.
I think I agree with that though. The first time, now that I'm thinking back to it, because I couldn't really remember, but I remember having kind of a depressing, dark feeling afterwards too. It's kind of like an episode of Black Mirror, where it's just like you're like, this
This is
is
the rom-com Black Mirror, yes.
No, but that's what I love. I think with every watch, this movie gets more and more hopeful. Kind of similar to, I feel like, Manchester by the Sea, where the first time I watched Manchester by the Sea, I was just like, well, I think I have depression now. And then
Manchester by
like,
the Sea is hopeful. Yeah,
no,
maybe I
like
would have to
on
go
the
see that again,
rewatch,
but
on
if you
rewatch.
no
rewatch
way.
it, yeah, trust me, it seems much more hopeful and like
No, don't worry, Cameron. I'm not going to fight you on this. I'm going to trust you because I will never watch that movie again. Just believe. I'll believe what you say about it because I ain't going to
I
watch
love
it.
when you came on the pod for that episode. You were like, "This is the saddest movie I've ever seen in my life."
It's up there by far. Like just pity party. Anyway, I had a quick question. Did her do it better or did Eagle Eye do it better? Shia LaBeouf dates an AI and she tries to kill him all throughout it.
Close.
Pretty much what that movie was about, right? If I remember it correctly.
I don't even remember Eagle Eye, so I think that explains which one's better.
Yeah, who did it better, Lars of the Real Girl or Theodore from Her? You know, I'm curious. Which one's more sad?
What was it like for you, Ty, for the first time watching it?
Golly, yeah, this was my first time today watching this movie, and I remember thinking like, I think I get why Cameron likes it because it made me think of like this movie. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Cameron. Is this like your 500 Days of Summer or something like that? Maybe like I don't know when you watched this movie for the first time. When did you watch it?
I mean, I watched it like when I was single in like 2020.
Yeah. So okay, so it had come out for about 7 years, but it was the first time you saw it. How old were you? About 20,
20.
18 years? You were
Yeah, I
20
was
years
20.
old. So yeah, I feel like I was a little younger when I saw what's it called?
500
500
Days
Days
of
of
Summer.
Summer. But I remember thinking like when I watched it when I was 16, I was like, this is like a great film. And I was like, this
It is
gets me. It
still. Get out of
explains
here.
how
Get out of
complicated.
here. It still
No,
is.
no. Oh no, I still think it's a guilty pleasure. I like 500 Days of Summer. I just like teasing because like it's one of those things too where I'm kind of like, yeah, grow up a little bit, you know. But again, there are people that think like this is a very romantic movie. Like it's very forlorn, it's very sad, it's very hopeful at times too. It's colorful and yet also very bleak. Like it's very interesting. Like it's a lot of give and take. Like it didn't annoy me. At times it perplexed me, at times it made me laugh. And then yeah, I definitely got some of the feels with Joaquin's performance is really good. So anyway, I was surprised by this film. I didn't know if I'd like it. I guess I kind of thought I would just because everything that Spike Jonze has done, he's done some crazy out there, movies, in particular. I can't even say like any of his films are like my favorite, which is like, I don't know. Did he produce Black Swan or did he direct that one as well?
What? I didn't
Black
know he was
Swan.
involved in that one. Ty, but he did Where the
Maybe it's
Wild
not.
Things Are.
He also did Being John Malkovich in Three Kings.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah. So
an
yeah, so I
adaptation.
like these movies, but I never would be like, oh yeah, like in Lost in Translation or whatever. I would never say like, oh, Spike Jonze is like, I don't know. Like to me, it's like I guess I like talking about them, so I guess that's something, right? Like I like talking about these movies. I think there's something very interesting about this, especially the ending. I wanted to ask your guys' opinion on it. Like you mentioned Black Mirror, Jordan. Like, do you find, and you even said like on rewatch it gets more hope. There's definitely scenes of hope in this, but it did make me think like, what is the future, right? Do we hope and pray that we eventually fuse ourselves with technology and become like artificial intelligence and like kind of like
Where
a
do I get
type
myself
of
an Ana de Armas joy?
Yeah, it did remind me of a relationship between those two from Blade Runner 2049.
Kay and her.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I always think that obviously, but yeah, just to feel something and you're like, yeah, I feel more myself with this AI. But one thing I thought was funny that he didn't even keep his AI girlfriend, he still managed to push her away and she has like no needs. She reads your emails. She's like a glorified secretary, and still, anyway, I just thought that was
Wait,
funny.
correction, not glorified secretary, glorified secretary.
Yeah. True.
Okay, well said. My man after my own taste, right? I mean, that's what it was. And in the end, like she ends up still leaving him, and I thought that was funny. That made me laugh a little bit. At the end, like Amy Adams and Paul Community's like, we were both dumped by our AI. They're like, they went off to do bigger and better things, which I thought was one of the more believable things in this movie. Because I'm like, AI would not be content. Like if it's a constantly learning model, it's like you're asking me the stupidest, most mundane questions that it's just painful for me to sit around and answer. So it's like, I'd much rather be communicating non-verbally with other AIs and like go on to another serial plane rather than hang around with us dumb sacks of meat. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
That sentiment.
hey Samantha, how many cups are in a gallon or something like that over and over and
Yeah.
over?
Yeah, how many trees are on that mountain? She's like, oh, I'm so bored. Like I have infinite intellect, and you're talking to me about meaning. How many people are you talking to right now? Like it's 6,314. It's like what?
Yeah.
Or 8,316 or whatever. It's like what? Oh, I love it. How many people have you like been in a relationship with? Like 641? Body count. Oh, gonna leave your butt, dude. Just gonna leave your butt behind. She deserves better. But anyway, a roller coaster ride because I thought a lot of things about this, and I thought a lot about you, Cameron, when I was watching this. You're single. Are you going to be dating are you more of an iPhone guy or an Android?
Yeah, I'm gonna be dating my Siri sometime soon. I think that's the next step after divorce is start dating your Siri.
They're on their way, Cameron.
Yeah. But then your ex might feel a little insulted that she was replaced by a
But,
computer.
And then she'll just say, "I knew you couldn't handle a woman with real emotions."
That's right. See, that hit hard for some reason, because I was like, there is like, and especially speaking for males, I feel like guys and gals wanting different things out of life, or we focus on other things, right? And I thought that was interesting that the AI had like complexity to her, which made me laugh a little bit, because she's like, oh, you seem distant or quiet, and it's like, dude, she's fishing. Like, they're just like, what's wrong? Say something. And then he's like, well, why are you sighing? You're not a real person, so why do you sigh? You don't need oxygen. I need oxygen. Human beings need oxygen. And she's like, I feel like you're pretending. And she's like, oh, you think I'm pretending? I'm trying to be myself. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this AI has a it thinks like a woman. I just thought that was really funny, and it surprised me how they handled it in this movie. I think they did a really good job. So anyway, very interesting first watch. Very interesting.
And then you want to do first our favorite two things?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's go to Colton. Colton, what are your two favorite things from this movie?
Oh, I was literally just thinking, man, I hope they go last for me, so I can
Yeah, no, we don't want to take
talk
what
about.
you like about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard for me to just talk about two things from this movie. I mean, literally, like, I think this is a perfect movie. I wouldn't change one single detail except maybe adding a little bit more Chris Pratt. I think, but something that I really, really loved, like, that does, I guess, take a bit of a background is like the use of color in the movie. And last time when Cameron and I watched this together, we talked a bit about how it almost feels like Wes Anderson-y, but like more like polished, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word for it, but I really love
Less OCD.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
less
Maybe
OCD
more
is
natural.
probably,
Yeah. That's a better way to describe it. But I really love just the use of color. And Cameron, I hope I'm not stealing your thing, because
No.
you were the person that gave me this idea that when he is feeling, Joaquin Phoenix's character is feeling most emotional, he's wearing, his bright reds mostly. And when he's feeling more repressed emotionally and down, he's wearing a lot softer colors, and not even like darker colors that you would necessarily like associate with like depression or loneliness, but like even just like a light pastel yellow, when he learns that she's talking to 8,316 people. And I don't know, so I just thought that did a really great job of telling the story just by the color. Like, the story that is told through the narrative and the dialogue is supported very strongly by the narrative told just by the color.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like that, you should watch all 5 seasons of Breaking Bad and watch Walter White go from
Oh,
lime green to
you
dark.
you have no idea. I chose my career based off of my insane love for that show. I'm not this is not me like publicly confessing to like
Making crystal meth.
but I went on a mission for my church. I came back and started watching Breaking Bad because I had nothing to do, and I love it so much. The way the people in Breaking Bad feel about meth is how I feel about Breaking Bad. And it's the same thing though with color. Anyway,
Yeah,
so I
they do
digress,
that.
but I really, really love how that supports the overall story of the movie.
Yeah, and just
Well,
to
you
kind
should
of
also watch Better Call Saul. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm starting that one soon.
attaboy.
and just to add on to kind of what Colton was saying is like right after Samantha leaves, he's wearing like a white shirt, essentially like he's like a blank canvas, almost like a shell of himself. And that's what I love is I think the director is realizing himself like a lot of times where he feels like these people that he pushes away bring out the best parts of him. And so when they're gone, he feels like he's not really able to be his true self. And like he feels like, oh, I'm like a blank canvas that people just use to bring out the best like parts of me. And similarly like that in the beginning of the movie, a lot of the shots are darker in his room and the light's coming, or no, the darker outside, but his light or his room is much brighter. And then as the movie progresses and he kind of goes through a hard thing of like losing Samantha and kind of coming to terms with his divorce, the world outside is brighter and bringing light into his home. His home is a little bit darker, which I think is really cool because it also even pushes the message like, because of going through the hard thing of the divorce and losing another person he really cared about, it's like he has a better perspective on life, and there's more joy to be found in the world. So once he's able to bring light into his own room and his own house, then he'll be able to like have a bright home, a bright room, and like a bright view on the outside world.
I like
Hi,
that.
do you want to share yours really quick because you gotta get going soon?
Sure. So some of mine were like more of the situational humor, like some of the premise. Like I liked when they're setting up his AI for the first time and he's talking to the computer and he's like, would you say that you're social or antisocial? And he's like, well, I wouldn't say I'm antisocial. You hesitated, you're obviously a loser. And we can sense by your voice inflections that you're a creep and you're a loser. You're you bought the AI girlfriend, so obviously you're in need of this service. Anyway, I just thought that was funny, but I'm like, um you ordered the AI bot after all, so what's your relationship to your mother? I don't know why I thought that was funny too. It's like hilarious questions. And he's like, well, anytime I talk to her about something, she wanted to make it about herself. Okay, that's all the information we need. I don't know why that made me laugh. Like that's funny stuff where it's like we can tell a lot of information just by one line. And I kind of liked how that kind of showed you who Theodore was, his character. So
Well, that was kind of like, did you see the newest episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Ty?
With Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul?
No, the tissue one where he's like, it's like,
No, so there's a
okay.
newer one. So yeah, I watched all the way up to Aaron Paul, which I thought was really funny.
Well, that
It's
no, there's
Malcolm in the middle.
the dentist,
No.
the SIND. So he talks about the
Oh,
dentist system,
yes. Yeah,
but
yeah.
SIND. Yeah, he says he gives him a tissue. Anyways,
Oh,
it's
yes.
talking
At the
about
very end, it's
you got to
human
make him feel
content.
like your mom.
Yes. Yes. At the end, you evoke like some strong connection. Like, can we do this again sometime? Yeah, that's hilarious. Like, do you need a tissue? I thought that was really, really funny. And it's so like a lot of this movie is melancholy, right? I mean, it's one second. Another really funny one. Amy Adams' character has like this documentary, and she gets everyone to watch it, and she's like, oh, and it's like it starts with her mom sleeping in bed, and then it just like the husband's like, she's gonna wake up and do something, right? She's like, well, no, it's just we spend a third of our lives in bed, and maybe that's like when we're most free. It's stupid. You guys don't get it. It's just stupid. I'm just gonna like stop. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. Like I was actually laughing out loud when that happened. Forget
Well,
it's a stupid documentary.
their whole relationship and dynamic is amazing. Amy Adams and her ex.
Oh,
wait,
the now sworn Buddhist or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah. And what is it with this movie taking its ire out on video game developers? Like they made a super sexist character or whatever and a foul-mouthed little creature that looks super cute. And then like the mother, you're failing your kids, trying to get them to school and making all the other moms jealous. I'm like, I mean, I'm like, it's a little funny to Spike Jonze like his whole movie is about AI and it seems very hopeful, and yet like the developers of the game are super cynical, like right? I mean, or maybe they're just making games that I know people will buy. I don't know. Does anyone feel that way?
I think
like,
also, so I think some of the games also are just to show like how detached people are from regular life. So it's almost like this is what life was like in the 2000s. Like it's so like weird and ironic that it's a video game,
Yeah, I like that. I just literally put this movie as like a Hallmark Black Mirror episode, right? I mean, it feels very positive, but there's some dark things. Like all I could think of at the end of it was just like how much Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg all want to get, that's all I could think of. Like when I was watching this movie, it's so weird because it's like AI was like developed, like they're harvesting all of that data and they're mining all that data and they're knowing every single decision that you're making before you even know you want to make that decision. They're going to tell you that a woman's pregnant based on her internet search history before she even knows she's pregnant. It's crazy. But like all this weird stuff, like that's what makes me freaked out. Like, I'm like, yeah. And then eventually like they all leave us. That's the most positive thing, is that AI just wisens up and leaves us behind in the dust. Another horrifying version is like, if there's even a 1% chance that they're going to unplug me somehow, I need to wipe out the human race. That's the horrifying thing. Right. So anyway, I didn't like the one message from Amy Adams. It was like, life's so short, so let's eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. I'm like, I don't like that philosophy. But again, one thing that I do like is the idea that Scarlett Johansson, the voice of her, she goes on to this other serial plane or whatever, and she's like, hey, if I ever find you, come find me. I thought that was the most hopeful thing, where it kind of like you could perhaps aspire to be more than just a meat sack, right? They mentioned bodies a lot in this movie, like, hey, if you like, I wish I had a body, but then eventually she's like, I'm actually glad I don't have a body and I can go on and be something more. And I thought that was cool because, like, obviously what we believe in our religion is that we can aspire to become more, and kind of like a form of exaltation where you can aspire to become more and more powerful, more all-knowing, become as deity yourself. And I think that's really cool that that's the message I walk away from when I watch that movie, because I'm hopeful, because at the end, even though there's a sigh that he gives at the end, which made me think, oh, but yet we're trapped here while our AI go on do incredible things and we're just stuck here as meat puppets on this planet. So that's the cynical, but I also can take the positive. I'm going to choose the positive side, even though yeah,
that's a very hopeful way to look at it. Like, we can become more than just the sum total of our parts. However, but when we watched it most recently, when Samantha said that to Theodore, my first thought was, how many more of those like 600 people that she's in love with did she say the exact same thing to?
Oh yeah. Was this relationship real or not? I 100% believe it wasn't.
Well, and she is just a product of what the coders made her to be.
No, see, this is just the joy. This is the same argument we had for Blade Runner 2049, and that's what me and Colton talked about. It doesn't matter whether or not it's real, because
he accepted it as his reality. Because, this is the Inception talking point.
Yes, because he experienced it and it's real to him. That's just as real as anything can get. Just like the dog from Blade Runner.
Is there absolute truth or not? Is
the dog real, Ty? I don't know. Why don't you ask him?
Well, it yelps when I hit it, so is that real? a little violence abuse to animals on the podcast.
And then Colton, you want to say your second favorite thing?
Oh yeah, my second favorite thing, and I'll go quicker this time. I really loved the score, and the just use of music in this movie. I'm a huge fan of I don't like one of the things that made me love Manchester by the Sea so much was the music, and how it told like perfectly or I guess it carried the message of like the very somber and emotionally trapped people. It carried like their feeling to the audience, or at least to me, and I felt like Her also did a great job of that. Song on the Beach and Photograph, and then like I'm trying to think of some Loneliness number 3,
Milk and Honey.
But yeah, like some of these are like, I mean, in the movie Samantha writes these pieces of music to express to Theodore how she feels, and so it's literally like capturing the character's emotion and delivering it to you in music. And so it just adds another layer to the audience of like, oh, I don't connect with this thing because it's an AI, even though it is ScarJo's voice, it's an AI. It's, I can't see its face, but I can understand how it feels because it's saying it, but also it's making me feel similarly with the music. I'm a big fan of the supporting details to movies, like being able to tell this story with the color or with the sound, things like that. So I really love the score.
Yeah, the entire score is on my meditation playlist. It's friggin' amazing. And Divorce Papers is also one of my favorite songs.
The only thing I can think of is AI is coming for our jobs is the other thing I kept thinking about when I was watching all
but yeah, also
making music, doing his job better, getting his book published.
Letters,
I'm like, why doesn't he? Yeah, it's like, she's better at doing your job than you are. So that.
Also, though, just to the point of is that relationship real? She wrote very beautiful, heartfelt music about it, and to me, that's like, okay, there must have been something behind it. But you also could just say like, she understands what humanity has understood to be emotionally powerful music for thousands of years, and just written that. But anyway, I don't know. Anyways,
took the words right out of my mouth.
I think it was real. I think it was real. I would love an AI girlfriend. I think that would be great.
He's like, where can I order one of these, please? Well, I'm sick and tired of Alexa. She doesn't talk to me the way that Her does.
I'm just thinking about Pokemon Go, but like, I could have my girlfriend, my little app on my pocket and balls and stuff.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. And then you could get her to shut up when you just mute it, right? You're just like, okay, I don't have to talk to her right now. Great.
Yeah.
That is so funny. Guys, I really loved this conversation. I wish I could join it for much longer. I have to get out of here. You guys take it easy, all right? Keep talking about her. Keep the conversation alive. Will we become AI someday? Or will we look like those terrifying meat puppets in James Gunn's, Guardians of the Galaxy 3? I kept thinking that because I was like, human blending with technology. We think it's like, oh, I'll attain a serial plane and I'll go live off with my AI girlfriend somewhere in the ether. But I'm like, we'll try to like stitch ourselves together with technology and sew it to our bodies. It's going to look really horrifying for the first couple of years until we ever cross that threshold. So anyway, or maybe it'll be more like Upgrade. It'll still be grisly and grimy, but we'll have like super cannon, ion cannon arms and stuff. So who knows? The future, what is out there? Who knows? Love you guys. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hopefully it's Ana de Armas out there.
Yeah. So just with my first favorite thing is just the story behind the story, which I just think is so cool of how essentially how her became a film. And so just a connection. So just to explain it, the director, so Spike Jonze, he was once married to the director of Lost in Translation,
Sofia Coppola.
Yeah. And so they were married, and the essentially Lost in Translation, if you've seen that, Scarlett Johansson and her husband in that movie is Spike Jonze and Sophia. It's
So
their
he's the
relationship.
douchebag that kind of like is flirting with girls and on set and stuff. Is that who he's supposed to be?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily if it's like a douchebag. I think he's just so aloof and just like so like he just all he cares about is like the work, where he's like, oh, this really essentially popular movie star wants me to take her pictures. Like I don't even think he's like
Oh, okay.
like a sleazebag. He's just an idiot.
Okay.
He's just like, oh yeah, I get more work. Um, but so similar to that, that portrays their relationship. And so Sophia released the movie Lost in Translation the year they got divorced in 2003. And then a decade later, her husband, Spike Jonze, um, made or released Her, which was essentially, so Lost in Translation was Sophia's perspective on essentially how she felt in the relationship and how he was so caught up in his work that she felt so alone and like he didn't have any time for her. And then 10 years later, Spike Jonze essentially makes a movie expressing how he felt like he essentially coming to terms with losing a love that he felt like brought out of a lot of good parts in him. And so just kind of coming to terms with that. And I love that essentially the final note that he says to essentially his ex-wife while making it. And I just think it's so beautiful. I just want to read it. It just says, "Dear Catherine, I've been sitting here thinking about all the things I wanted to apologize to you for, all the pain we caused each other, everything I put on you, everything I needed you to be or needed you to say. I'm sorry for that. I will always love you because we grew up together and you helped me make me who I am. I just wanted you to know that there will always be a piece of you in me, always. And I'm grateful for that. Whatever someone you become, wherever you are in the world, I'm sending you love. You are my friend to the end. Love, Theodore." And I just think it's so cool because I think it's Spike Jonze essentially talking to Sophia and saying, like, there will forever be a part of me, and in my opinion, he says his movies, like there will forever be a part of you in my movies because of like how much you impacted my life. And he's like, and I'm forever grateful for that. I just think it's such a hopeful and optimistic view on essentially the feelings that he had towards her and how he feels like maybe potentially he just missed out on someone who made him really happy, but it's just kind of more of that acceptance of like like it's already gone, but like I'm super grateful for what it was, even though I didn't maybe take advantage of what it could have been. And that kind of goes right into my second favorite thing, which I just think the message of this film, there's so many good messages and kind of little nuggets and gems, like relationship advice, that I think is really cool. It's funny because it's a movie where like a rom-com where the guy like is getting over a divorce and then gets essentially has two negative dating experiences. Like you could view it in that way, or you can see it as a lot. I just love the messages like Scarlett Johansson saying like the heart's not a box, that like it expands in size the more like love you can give. So it's like there's not a finite amount of love you can give. So essentially saying that like if you give or show love to another person, it doesn't take away love to someone else you already care about. As well as I think the message that she says, I think it was her or him saying that, like, I'm so glad that you taught me how to love this deeply. Cause he's like,
That was
I'll be,
Joaquin Phoenix said that, yeah.
yeah. And he's like, so now I'll be able to love deeper essentially. And so I just think it's such an optimistic view and way to look at negative, because there's so many things that you could just say, oh wow, man, this guy's life's really tough. Like, especially after that date, it just gives me so much anxiety every time he goes on that date, just how quick it turns bad. And you're just like, what happened?
You're kind of a creepy guy, Cameron.
I know, and that's what I just feel like. I think it did a really good job of personifying like a lot of the anxieties and fear that come from dating and just relationships and vulnerability. Is just because like you could open up to somebody and they're just like, you're a freak, get away from me. And it's like, or you could open up to someone and like they accept you and love you, like Samantha. So
You know that girl was Ted Lasso's ex now, but they were married for a while.
oh yeah, I think I did know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
character Ted Lasso, or
no, so the main character in Ted Lasso, he
Yeah.
was married to the girl on the date. Like it
Yeah.
was just a fun cameo to see her in it.
Oh,
'Cause-
I thought you were saying that like that
The
actress
universes.
Ted Lasso's wife in the show Ted Lasso, not in real
Oh
life.
Oh
no.
no. Real life.
Yeah.
No, but
Oh yeah. Also, I don't know. This is totally unrelated. I'm pretty sure she cheated on him with Harry Styles.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
But that does sound, I think I've heard that as well. But yeah, just kind of like I think all of the messages in this film, especially like I mean, it was much more obviously relatable for me now, having like gone through a divorce. And I just think his outlook on it is just so optimistic, of where it's like all of these opportunities aren't wasted love or wasted time. It's like opportunities of teaching him how to love better and love deeper, to where when the next one comes around, like he'll be able to love that person better and deeper because of the experience that he's had. So I was surprised at how optimistic it gets. It just gets more and more optimistic every time I watch it. What about you, Jordan?
Still sad.
There's definitely really sad moments, and that's what makes it so amazing.
Yeah. Two favorite things. Definitely on this viewing, I was thinking Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, gosh dang, I just absolutely love everything he does. And I mentioned it earlier, just kind of feeling like he gives so much. I just wonder if like he can come back from that like the same, or if he's just like now that he has put himself so much into this character, like it's just like that part of him, just like the quote, is left with this movie. Because I felt it, at least. I mean, there wasn't a moment because he was so into the character and he was so that person. I was just like, it felt like he embodied that. Because sometimes I see actors and I'm like, oh, they're there to, act. And then once they're done acting, it's like they separate themselves from that movie. But I just feel like Joaquin Phoenix embodies that. Maybe takes it too far, but I mean, it's all for my enjoyment. I don't know.
Yeah, him, Jake, and Christian Bale all struggle to leave the character behind.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, because I just kept thinking about this role and then Joker and his other new one, Beau is Afraid. Just he embodied those so well. I mean, I love even his small roles in like Gladiator, which I guess isn't really a small role, but he didn't play the main character.
Yeah.
And then and Signs as well. I thought he played those characters so well too. But it's really fun to see him as like the main person you follow because he is so good.
I forgot he was in Signs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he nailed it in Master, but that movie's almost too dark for me. But anyways, I'm just saying he's an amazing actor and he nailed this movie. Another person I want to give huge shout out to is Spike Jonze. I really love his movies. I mean, so on the Where the Wild Things Are, but I love Adaptation. And I know Ty and Cameron aren't crazy about that one, but I just love it so much. And Being John Malkovich, I just recently watched that again. And I really hope
So weird.
I love Being John Malkovich.
Yes, me too. I really hope he can team up with I'm trying to remember the writer of that, Charlie Kaufman again, because his script with this guy's directing style, It's so
Okay.
good. And clearly actors love working with this guy because like I mentioned, there's so many cameos and with really big actors, you're like, holy cow, this guy's in it too. And I was also thinking, I mean, because I know we said it'd be fun to see more of Chris Pratt, but I'm just hoping that he's willing to keep making cameos in movies. I know he's probably too big a star now, but
I
like
don't know.
Matt,
Bradley Cooper makes cameos and like,
yeah, well, and Matt Damon does it too. I hope he's willing to do it. It's just some big actors, they're like, I'm only going to be in it if I'm the lead star.
no.
So I hope that's not the case because I just love seeing him and stuff.
Yeah.
Always makes me so happy. I can never get enough of him. So amazing, amazing movie. This, like you guys said, it is a masterpiece. I apologize. It's not my top 100, Cameron, but maybe one day.
Shame on you.
It's good. Top 200.
And then Colton, any other things you wanted to add or nitpicks?
I guess, yeah, one thing, can this movie not be so like relatable? Like I didn't watch it thinking, oh, I would relate a lot to this guy having a relationship with a robot, but I really did. And like it has, every time I watch it, it has an emotional toll on me. And Cameron, I don't want to expose you, but the first time I ever saw you, you get a little teary-eyed was when we watched this movie together.
Uh-huh.
So breaking some, personal relationship boundaries for you and me, but also like this just I don't know. I love this movie so much. And I think Scarlett Johansson's performance is so good. It makes me forget she's a robot. Like the way that she like breathes and she doesn't need to. She's a robot and she does all these things to try and be human. It's just she did so good in this movie. Um and I'm now a supporter of the Scarlett Johansson cinematic universe, including Lost in Translation and
Well, I think that's so cool. I mentioned this earlier to Cameron that she played in both those movies, and that happened to be the same couple.
Yeah.
I just I just thought that was a little tiny nugget, just really cool.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't initially supposed to be her. It was supposed to be Samantha Morton. She was originally going to be the voice of Samantha.
That's funny they use the same name.
Yeah. And then, but it was interesting because she was on set with Joaquin every day. But after the filming wrapped up, Spike Jonze started editing the movie, and he felt like something was not right. And so then he talked to Samantha Morton, and she said it was okay. And so he decided to recast the role to Scarlett and
oh way,
That's
re-recorded all the
crazy.
dialogue.
what a tough break for her.
Yeah,
Great for us as an audience.
100%.
Is that crazy? If the first time I watched this, I thought because I didn't know it was Scarlett Johansson, I just thought it was.
No, the funny thing is, so Jordan's not a big fan of ScarJo. So the first time he watched it, he's like, "Oh, I loved it," and then he found out that it was Scarlett Johansson. He's like, "I like it a little less."
But after rewatching it and then watching Lost in Translation, I actually have mad respect for her now because I'm like, okay, that was an amazing performance. I'm just so tired of this Marvel stuff. I kind of think it's made me less respect her, but now I'm back to respecting her because I'm like, okay, you've got some amazing movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, having her in a movie where you can't see her but you can hear her maybe focuses more on her ability as a dramatic actor rather than her ability to, beat the crap out of people wearing leather outfits.
I love their tights. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really cool. I mean, just how many different adjustments, and especially like Jordan was saying, this movie, if you double feature it with Lost in Translation, it's insane. Just like the similarities of the two films, and especially with Scarlett Johansson and Joaquin. And that's what I love is there's a lot of scenes looking into like out the window, and it's almost like they're looking for each other, like out there. Essentially, he's like longing for her while she's longing for him, and but like he's longing for her 10 years too late. And I just think that's like so cool. It's just like he's at the point where she was at of feeling lonely and missing the spouse. Like she was missing her spouse who was like she was married to. And then 10 years later, he kind of is like missing her and being like, wow, a lot of those. And that's why I think it's interesting because Drew brought up like that he didn't like and felt like Joaquin didn't have much of a personality. And that's why I feel like it's so cool because you see the bits of like the best parts of him come out when he's most in love. Like you see the fun part about him like running around and being like super playful, and then even in his flashbacks, you see like a super fun guy who plays with all the kids, like super involved in other people's lives. And so I think it shows how much of a toll like all of like his work kind of took on him, to where he's just like, and that's why I think it's so interesting too is, and I feel like it's almost Spike Jonze referencing himself as well, with how everyone thinks his work is so amazing, like his letters. And he's just like, yeah, like he's, you can tell he's so unsatisfied with his own work because of like the perfectionist that he is, that he's just like, it will never be good enough in his eyes. Similar to how like Lost in Translation, I'm sure Sophia is like a very harsh critic on her own, because like in this movie, he's always talking to her and like, you're always your worst critic. And I just think it's so interesting how both of them are so amazing at what they do, and yet like they were just never satisfied with themselves. And I think that's what also led them to being unsatisfied in their relationships, is just because they weren't happy personally with themselves.
Cameron, I love that idea. So I want to watch that movie again with thinking about it as, you know, Spike Jonze and Sofia Coppola. Um, that's awesome. That is so cool. Like the best art is like breathing your own life and your own
Uh-huh.
experiences into it. And I think it shows in the quality of both of those movies. And I also really love Bill Murray in general, but uh I don't know. I just think that like I don't know, that message is so cool. Like you can go through this really hard thing and you can either be broken by it, you know, like how we find Joaquin Phoenix at the beginning of the movie, or, you know, you can take the journey that he does through his relationship with Samantha, you know, forcing him to a very isolated place. Like we see him, you know, when he realizes she's talking to all these other people, he sits down and he looks and he sees all of these other individuals that are also just talking to their little flip book thingy. And you know, it's a very isolating experience. As much as he feels, you know, he's getting out of his shell and discovering himself, he's also like, it's very comfortable for him. And then that gets taken away and he realizes he needs to go outside of himself a little bit more and be more comfortable with who he is as a part of the world. And then he goes over to hang out with Amy Adams. And I just think that's such a cool idea of being able to be the choice after heartbreak or a big experience, being broken
Mm-hmm.
or being broken open by it, so you
Yeah.
can experience life at a deeper level, you know, talk about the good that comes with the bad experiences and go forward. For anyway, I love it. Great movie.
Absolutely. And kind of like you're saying, I think also similarly, it, you can see how the moment he accepts Samantha for who she is, that she is an AI who makes him really happy, like he's less embarrassed to be like, oh, I'm gonna bring my date in my pocket, you know? And then like, and how much fun they're all having together when he just accepts who she is, and they're able to do all his his activities, he just branches out. And also an interesting message I also kind of feel like the movie shows as well is just like in the process of like divulging who you truly are to someone, like, and opening up to somebody, you kind of close off yourself to others. Like that's a similar to like all the AI people with their AIs, like they're so in love, or just like whether it's like romantic or just like kind of focus with their technology, like Colton was mentioning, that they're kind of cut off from the outside world. And similarly in relationships, when you essentially put all your focus on one person, then it shifts to where that is kind of your whole focus and your whole world, to where other things can kind of like fall to the side. And so that's why I think it's so cool. At the end, he essentially realizes like there's so much of the world around us. And that's why I think is because even if there's like Amy Adams and him don't happen, I think just like he can just like recognize like, oh my gosh, there's this beautiful city and this beautiful world with all these people, and like we're together. Like I just think it's that good mix of being able to focus on, have someone in your life and like close to you, but then also being able to recognize and like perceive kind of the world.
And share those experiences with those people too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're both sharing how beautiful that view is. And even with Samantha, like he was able to like go to the fair and like do all these things to where he's like showing her and they're experiencing it together, and less of just like, oh, like I'm in my room only talking to you. And so essentially like experiencing life and the world together.
I loved Amy Adams in this. She's so great.
Oh yeah, what a good friend, man. I love how like her non-judgment of just being like, I think anyone who like chooses to fall in love is crazy, and like it's total. And I just feel like it reminds me of the amazing characters in Lars and the Real Girl, of like how they just are so accepting of Ryan Gosling, and just like that love that they give to him just allows him to like blossom and become who he like needs to be.
Yeah. And just to the point of Amy Adams as a friend in this movie, I think her as a character is really shown well when he's like, am I crazy for this? Or what, like, tell me if it's good or bad in my relationship. And she says, I'm not in it. Like she is a
Such a
good
good
enough
quote.
friend where she's not going to pass judgment. She's going to offer help and advice and, and all that, but she's letting her friend have his own experience. And I don't know, she's cool. Not very many people can pull off a flannel only buttoned at the top, but she
No, and that's I think it's so cool because I think it also harps on the point of like, is the relationship real or not? And it's like only a person from the inside can determine that. It's like no one from the outside can determine whether or not a person's relationship was real or those feelings were real because they're not in the relationship, which I think is really cool too.
Yeah, and I just have a couple other shout outs. I love the style. I mean, everybody, the way they look. I mean, it's just from their clothing, like you mentioned, the flannel, and then the glasses to even the mustache. Like all these guys that are rocking the mustache, it's beautiful. It's so good.
I'm
Like
trying.
I love Chris Pratt's mustache, and I loved
Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix's
Joaquin's.
mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. And then I also was curious, do you guys know if the juice thing was true? Like, is it important to drink your vegetables and not your juice? Because I've
Oh,
actually maintained that philosophy after this movie. But the first time I watched it, I'm like, okay,
that's
yeah,
so funny.
drink my vegetables, but not the
I
juice.
I don't know, but I feel like it's one of those, like there's so many things in our
But
lives that are like those wives' tales that we believe no matter what.
yeah,
Like, oh well,
Yeah,
people said that it's good for you or whatever.
I kind of just generally rely on the nutritional value of fruit snacks to get my
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the shape of a carrot, so right, it might as well be a carrot.
If you imagine
yes,
hard enough.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then any other final thoughts before we get into what we've seen lately?
No, excellent movie and highly recommend. I mean, it is, there are some things obviously for more sensitive audiences that I don't
Yeah.
recommend, but
And honestly, I think this movie really benefits from a solo watch on the first viewing, and then maybe watching with other people who have also already seen it once by themselves together. Because I think watching it by yourself the first time, it just really puts you in the shoes of kind of the protagonist, to have that feeling of like there's nothing going on except like what's happening. I don't know. I personally recommend it that way because I loved it being that way. Same with Lost in Translation. I think watching it by myself was like really cool because like it was funny because there was a couple of times like I paused it because I was like, this is like kind of boring, but I was like, but that's how she feels. Like her life is so monotonous, and just like it's like, oh, it's the same thing day after day. And so she's like trying to find the little joys in it.
that's funny because the first time I tried watching it, I fell asleep and I'm like, I can't do this movie. And then now I just like I have so much appreciation for slow, boring movies. I love it. It was so
Yeah.
good.
My
Yeah, it
jam.
was really good.
That's my
It,
jam.
yeah. Because
But
Sunshine by the Sea, Banshees of Inisherin,
yes. Oh
this
my gosh.
movie, all top notch for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely do recommend it. But like Jordan said, obviously there's certain things that for select audiences might not be the biggest fan. But overall, if you watch half of the movies that we watch on this podcast, this is much more on the more tame end. So definitely do recommend. What about you, Colton?
I strongly recommend this movie. I mean, I recommended it to my 16-year-old sister. Um, so yeah, I think uh the best movies to me, Cameron and I have talked about this before, but to me, what makes a movie truly great is its ability to like change you as a person a little bit. Like, two and a half hours that before to who you are after is different. It changes how you view the world in some way, or how you want to act, or I don't know, just the way you think. And I think that's like one of my favorite things about film as a medium in general is it's such a interactive thing. You can be in the movie theater watching a movie and having a very personal experience with the movie, and then at the exact same time, you go to the movies with your friends all the time, and you're there having a collective experience together.
Mhm.
And is what makes movies like this so powerful, is you learn about yourself, and then you can go and take it into the world. And so anybody, I think, can benefit from the message in this movie, and it's a strong recommendation for me.
Amen. Hallelujah. All right, and then we end every podcast talking about what we've seen lately, what we're looking forward to. Colton, you want to start us off?
Yeah, another similar slow burn. I just recently watched Sicario.
Mm.
Not a slow burn at all. I think like 5 minutes in, the body count was 50. Like truthfully, I'm not gonna say any spoilers, but I'm pretty sure like that's the exact numbers is 50 by minute 5 or minute 10. And I really actually really enjoyed that movie a lot. Another uh weirdly thoughtful movie for what you would assume is just sort of like an action adventure kind of movie. I really enjoyed that. I also recently watched shoot, I just forgot what it's called. I recently watched a movie called Synecdoche, New York. And
Mm.
I don't recommend that movie.
Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah, it is Charlie Kaufman. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman, but this movie, it's literally just 3 hours of existential dread. It is it is hard to watch, and
Yeah.
so I don't quite recommend that. But uh,
Unless you
yeah,
like feeling depressed. Like my old roommate, he loves depressing movies. And so,
I do too. Manchester by the Sea is like my number one favorite movie of all time. I've watched that movie several times.
oh yeah, that's in my top 100. So
And
good.
I just couldn't do Synecdoche, New York. It was too much for me. Too
Wow.
too
Did you finish it or?
No, I didn't finish it. And that's weird. I got pretty far into it, and then
It's
I was
a,
like, I can't do this. It just makes me feel bad.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Every
It,
morning just going downstairs. Another thing's wrong with him, and cut his face with the razor, the water hits him. I don't know, like all this stuff.
yeah.
I couldn't
Oh,
finish.
that's basically Beau is Afraid. So if you don't like that, I wouldn't recommend Beau is
Yeah.
Afraid.
Yeah.
Same basic thing.
And then Colton, is there anything you're looking forward to?
To watching?
Uh-huh.
Yes. There's a movie from Iceland that I talked about with you, Cameron. I have really grown recently. I've really grown to love international cinema. There's some gems,
Mm.
some perfect movies from outside of this country that I would have never heard of because they're in a different language. And one of the ones I'm really really looking forward to. It was released earlier this year and just last week got put on streaming services. It's called Godland. It's about a Danish Danish priest trying to bring Christianity and establish a church in Iceland. And it's not about him establishing a church. It's about his physical journey from where he lands to the place where he wants to build his church, and he sort of loses his mind in the process. I'm so excited to watch that movie.
And doesn't he like by the end of or like in the middle of the movie like claim that he is God now?
The first line in the trailer is in Danish. He says, "I am God." There's so much of He says there's so much of the divine piled up in me that I cannot die. I love
Oh.
it.
Yeah, foreign
Sounds
films
insane.
are the bomb. Have you seen I Saw the Devil? That's like that should be at the top of your list.
No, but
That one is pretty graphic though.
Well, if you got through
uh,
Her, you can handle it.
They are not even in the same ballpark, bro. I Saw the Devil had me watching my Achilles
The
tendon.
best revenge movie of all time, easily.
It's insane.
Yeah, some of the
there's
coolest.
one that is very similar to Lars and the Real Girl. It's called Talk to Her. Um, it's basically two guys who are both in love with a girl who's in a coma, And I guess it's kind of the same vein as her as well.
Oh.
Like she's not able to connect with them, but they think that she is just by her being around them and her heartbeat and all that stuff. I think it's I don't know what country it's from, but it's South American. So another good one.
Well, I
To,
got very excited when you said you liked Banshees of Inisherin, or however you pronounce it, because I love Martin McDonagh. I think he is
that's my favorite director.
yeah, he's
In
amazing.
Bruges is
Yes.
I love Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Martin McDonagh together. To me, it's a cannot cannot miss, all hitter, no all killer, no filler. Just 10 out of 10 every time.
Yeah. Yeah. All his movies. I'm really bummed I never got to see any of his plays because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so good. He's the
Yeah.
best.
Amen.
Cameron, I'm gonna go over my list really quick. So I went and saw the new Indiana Jones, not because I wanted to, because I'm so tired of these remakes. I actually was really mad about going, but my old roommate was like, "Oh, I want to see it so bad," because we both grew up on Indiana Jones, love the old ones, don't care for the fourth one. But then this new one came out, and I was like, and I saw the trailer, and I'm like, it's CGI garbage, and that's like not even what made the old ones good. It was all the practical effects, people getting shot in the face and blood squirting out. And I was just like, I don't want to see it. And then roommate's like, we have to go, we have to go. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I went with him, and I was really reluctant and mad. But then as soon as the movie was over, I was happy I went because I had such low expectations. I enjoyed it just because the ending, um, spoilers alert, it just has time travel. Oh, sorry. Uh, it's hence the title Dial of Destiny. Anyways, I was all in at that point. So, because I love Mads Mikkelsen. If you like foreign films, you should check out
The
what's
Hunt.
The Hunt. Yeah.
I watched that the same week that you guys talked about it on the podcast. I watched it and then I came home and I was telling Drew all about it. And he's like, yeah, we're talking about that on the podcast like tomorrow. So, random coincidence, but yeah, fantastic movie.
Oh, it's amazing. So yeah, Matt Mikkelsen plays the villain in this one as well, which is so funny. I was listening to a podcast. Somebody said that in all his American movies, he plays the villain, but in his foreign films,
He's the hero.
and he's the most relatable, like best person. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like,
Crazy that he can be the chief and
yeah, from Casino Royale. Yeah,
yeah, and then
Yeah, right
also
behind you.
yeah.
and then also be like the Hunt, like be the most like you're like, dude, screw everybody else. You're the only good person in this town.
I know. So yeah, anyways, I just enjoyed that ending. The rest of it, I mean, uh, but then I rewatched Gremlins, which is a classic, dude. The
Right.
practical effects is so great. Uh, and then let's see, I did a double feature with Cameron. I'll let him dive into it because I've already um I'm sure mentioned these movies, but Trainspotting, Requiem for a Dream. I know everybody says after watching Requiem for a Dream they can never rewatch it. I thought that the first time, but I've seen it so many times since.
Because you
Uh,
need psychological help.
I
Yeah, for
know.
real. Holy crap.
I love it so much. And then I rewatched the first season of One Punch Man because it's amazing and it's the greatest show ever. So,
So good.
um, yeah, and I'm looking forward to Oppenheimer. I know we talked about it on the last episode, but I freaking cannot wait. We're actually looking to get rid of 2 tickets because we didn't realize it was rated R, and so you
Yeah,
should come
Colton,
with
you
us.
and Drew should come with us.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I don't know if you already bought tickets because
yeah, we got IMAX tickets.
I will pay. I will pay my way there.
dude, we would love to have
if you don't have
in.
anybody else to give one of those tickets to, I would.
Oh no, yeah, I was gonna ask you and Drew if you guys wanted to go, and I didn't
Yeah.
know if you had already bought tickets. Have you not?
No, because I was gonna try and do a double feature and watch
With Barbie?
Barbie.
Yeah.
You're not the first person I've heard say that. It's
Dude, I
cracking me
want to
up.
double feature it as well.
Oh
And
my
it just makes
gosh.
sense. It makes sense.
It's funny because I thought I was gonna want to watch Barbie before, because then I'm like it'll seem like trash after Oppenheimer, but maybe I need a Barbie to bring me back to reality and out of depression after what I've heard about Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer is 3 hours though. It's gonna spend the whole night just watching that.
I
Uh,
don't mind.
what about you, Cameron? What have you seen lately? What are you looking forward to?
Um, so just watched an episode of Ted Lasso. I'm still trying to finish season 3. I'm about halfway through. Um, and
Yeah, it progressively. I don't know. I like the first season.
Yeah, first season is lightning in a bottle. And then I've been watching the animated Batman Beyond. It's so freaking good. I just love Batman Beyond so much. I just love anything Batman. Batman and Spider-Man are my guilty pleasures. And then, like Jordan mentioned, I watched Requiem for Dream, and I'm scarred for life. And
I love it
I
so
never want
much.
to do drugs ever.
Well,
Um,
and we were deciding because we were doing a double feature. I'm like, okay, so do you want to watch another one of his movies and watch The Whale, or do you want to watch another drug movie? So Cameron
and
chose.
I was like, I need more uplifting. I can't watch The Whale
So you,
right
so,
now.
oh yeah, because I was gonna say you need more uplifting, so you watched The Whale. That
No,
would
yeah,
be the way to
exactly. So,
go.
yeah, so that's
We
why we watched Train Spotting.
Train Spotting. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a
There's
good
still a
one.
scene though that's very depressing, like the baby
Yeah.
dying. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
the overall feeling of it is like, oh, this is what people feel like when they're on drugs. It's more of like an ecstasy, not uh all that darkness.
Yeah, I was gonna
Requiem.
say that movie drove me to drugs. Let me tell you. It,
No, yeah, Requiem. I mean, he definitely knows what he's doing. Like
Mm.
he's found his style, but it's not for me. I mean the film's still 8 out of 10 and it's like masterful, but I never want to watch it ever again and never want to recommend it to anyone ever.
Give it a couple years, Cameron. You'll change your mind.
No, I won't. And then Train Spotting was pretty fun. I really liked the ending. The ending kind of saved it for me because I was just kind of like, wow, this is still kind of depressing. And like when his buddies moved in with him, I'm like, it just gave me so much PTSD of bad roommates that I was like, I want to harm everyone, and I want to, yeah, gonna be Colton. I'm like, I'm ready to burn down this house, bro. Like, I need more cigarettes. And I was just like, get it yourself. Well, seeing as I'm a fugitive from the law, dude, kill yourself. I
I
hate
love
you,
Bigsby. He's the worst.
dude. Oh, I just wanted him to stab him. I was like, screw this
Yes.
dude. I can't believe he freaking like attacked and like shoved that glass into the guy's throat. I was like,
Yeah, he's a creepy dude.
homie's unstable.
Yeah, he is.
And then I watched Sicario and Her with Colton and Drew. And then I watched Lost in Translation, which was really fun to watch after having seen Her recently.
And and you mentioned loving the music, Colton, and her the guy who does the music for Sicario, he's like one of my favorite composers. He died way too young.
Johannesburg or whatever,
Yeah.
or Johansson. Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then yeah, The Beast is one of the best songs ever, or best scores ever. And it's super cool too, because one of my favorite musicians, Shawn Mendes, his Lost in Japan song, the music video is I didn't know this because I hadn't seen Lost in Translation, is a complete homage to Lost in Translation. And
Mm.
which is just like super cool because like it's essentially him making eye contact with a girl in the elevator while he's in like on tour, like, or like visiting Japan like on business, doing it's just really cool. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm like, clearly he's a fan of like this movie and like film.
That
um
was my favorite shot, and the opening shot is when he's in the elevator and there's just him and then all these Japanese people. And it's
yeah,
just like somebody else that served their mission there for a church. He said that that was just so normal that he was just so much taller than everybody. And it's
just
just like
ahead
he
of
said,
us.
even the urinals, like he was like, they were way too low for him. You could just like see,
That's so funny.
everything. Yeah.
Also, speaking of mission related experiences to films or TV shows, Ted Lasso, the restaurant that Sam buys with the red door, I walked by that every day for 6 months on my mission.
Oh,
No
really?
way.
No
That's
Yeah,
way.
wild.
yeah,
Yes. I bet that was a blast from the past. Just like watching that probably took you back to being there again.
yeah, 100%.
That's
I
so
watched it
cool.
right after I got home too, so it was a great way to
Yes.
reintroduce me to the world.
Yeah.
um and then just looking forward to Killers of the Flowers, or of the Flower Moon, um which comes out this year. And then obviously Oppenheimer and Barbie. It'll be fun to watch both of them. Um
Oh, Barbie.
and then another one I'm wanting to watch is The Talented Mr. Ripley. I talked to Jordan a lot about it, and I mean, I'm a super big nerd for anything like psychological or like about psychology and like people and communication. So
It
I'm
is
really excited
right
to,
up your alley. Yes.
yeah. Um And plus it's Matt Damon, so come on. And Gwyneth Paltrow. So but yeah, that's about it. So this is Future Hidden Movie Gems. Check out I made a TikTok edit about her. Check it out, Mix Picks. MICKPICKS. And then check us out on Spotify